same as Hamas is a fucking ridiculous equivalence, okay? Hamas does not have the firepower, the manpower, the military apparatus. Hamas has nothing, okay? That's why when they fucking flew into Israel, they didn't use F-16s, okay? And this is not even Gaza. You're looking at West Bank. You're looking at settler violence in an area that everybody understands Israel should have no business being inside of, and yet it is. This is what peaceful coexistence looks like. These are the people that don't do anything. They just get fucking bullied, ritualistically humiliated, okay, and killed in a lot of instances and displaced. I think complacency plays a big role in it. It is a massive. Here, this is what I said. Launching off of what Israeli journalist Gideon Levi said on the BBC. First, I will show you what he said. This is immediately after when the Israeli government tried to retaliate against Gazans. Here is what he said, and then I'll tell you what my perspective is again, so you understand.
Gaza is a cage. It's the biggest prison in the world. Nobody spoke about lifting the siege. And, you know, people who live now 17 years in a cage want to resist. And if they have the possibility, they do it. And I'm surprised that they had the possibility, because the barrier, I know the barrier around Gaza, billions of dollars were spent there to build this unbelievable barrier under the surface and above the surface with all kinds of electronic devices. And finally, you see that the spirit of resistance is many times stronger than anything else, and they broke it and penetrated into Israel, which is now shocked. Gaza.
Yeah. This is not me saying it. It's an Israeli journalist in the BBC saying it in the immediate aftermath of a massive military operation inside of the borders of Israel that has never happened before, with many civilians dying. Okay? And a ton of hostages that they took. To which I responded with, and this was still my perspective, there is no perfect retaliation to apartheid. There are only victims everywhere. One party holds all the power to end the violence, however, and it's certainly not the Palestinians living under a colonial apartheid regime that has chained them in an open-air prison it bombs routinely. And there are plenty of people who refuse to see that and say, well, you know, they really blew it. I saw a lot of people saying they really blew it. The Palestinians really blew it. The backlash is going to be so bad. They're going to end up killing a bunch of Palestinians. To them, I say, do you think this calculation is not in the minds of Palestinians? You can push humans only so far until they realize that this is their only method. They will go out on their own terms in this regard. You want to stop the violence, you want to stop the bloodshed, you have to pull back on your end. Because this violence and this bloodshed is disproportional. The violence is asymmetrical. Okay? People try to make this distinction between Hamas and Palestinians. You are completely oblivious to the reality. Hamas is a Muslim Brotherhood fundamentalist cutout. It also happens to be the only popular form of governance amongst Palestinians. Do you want to know why that is the case? Do you want to examine the reason as to why Palestinians, who are comprised of incredibly diverse backgrounds, are now looking at a fundamentalist group of Islamists, for the most part, as their only savior? Do you think that it is important to analyze that situation? Or do you think it's easy to just say, let's separate Hamas from the Palestinian plight. Let's separate Hamas and their actions. They are different. This is the reason why people do this, is because they want to support Palestinian people, but they think the only support Palestinian people can get is if they are perfect victims. If they just sit back and die, except the media rarely ever covers it when that happens for year after year after year, when they march peacefully to that same border wall so they can peacefully return, which is their right, and they get sniped in the thousands. When it's like little kids, 14-year-olds, nurses, they get sniped and they get fucking killed, and nobody ever makes a peep, pregnant women dying because they peacefully marched. The greatest comparison to the circumstances here is either to Algeria and its violent struggle against colonial French occupation, or Nelson Mandela and the ANC fighting against apartheid. So today, I also want to cover the often forgotten, often whitewashed history of the struggle against South African apartheid. Because the ANC, the African National Congress, originally was a peaceful movement. Okay? It was a peaceful movement, and they were peacefully resisting against this unjustifiable apartheid state. And yet, it got to a point where, 69 black people were butchered, mercilessly slaughtered, where even Nelson Mandela realized that it is not necessarily just a struggle. When all other opportunities are lost, when there is no other way to push back against a colonial state, an apartheid state that is unjustifiably treating you like a second-class citizen, then you must engage in violent struggle. Violence, as I've always said, is a constant in politics. It's a constant in politics. It's unchanging. Nelson Mandela was on the U.S. FBI terrorist watch list until 2008, long after he had won and had actually changed, or not changed rather, but moved to immediately facilitate peace in South Africa. 2008. He was democratically elected as a leader in 1994, and until 2008, he was still considered a terrorist. Nelson Mandela was offered freedom after being jailed, I believe, in 1967, after he went to Algeria and Ethiopia and learned about the violent struggle against colonial occupation, and came back and said the people deserve, the people demand emancipation, and they are willing to take matters into their own hands, and there is no other way to do this. Okay? We have debated for far too long. There's no more room for debate. There's no more room for civil disobedience. This does not work. And they jailed him. They jailed him while his supporters still continued their acts of violence. Now, let me tell you something. The world branded them terrorists. The world branded Nelson Mandela as a terrorist. He was on the terrorist watch list until 2008. Remember that. Okay? In that entire process, there were moments where there was also a lot of, especially in the aftermath of the dissolution of the USSR, where people were realizing that there was no longer the threat of communism. People wanted change in South Africa, and there was a robust boycott, divestment, and sanction movement, a peaceful movement to boycott, divest, and sanction the state of South Africa as long as it continues its apartheid. This movement actually took hold, and it applied external pressure. Foreign capital chose to pull out of South Africa. So both of these factors, violence on the ground and external pressure, caused an ally of the United States, an ally of the West, in a deeply anti-communist state that engaged in a never-ending, continued violent military apparatus that forcibly oppressed black people, treated them as second-class citizens. It finally ended. But throughout that duration, Nelson Mandela was told on not one, but two different occasions, 10 years apart, if you condemn the violence, we will let you go free. The ANC at the time was still banned, the African National Congress. Okay? The ANC at the time was banned. Nelson Mandela the first time said, "How can you negotiate with me when I am still chained in prison? I will not concede." Once again, I believe in 1985, the last time they went to Nelson Mandela and said, "We will free you if you denounce Marxism, if you denounce communism, and if you denounce the violence that your supporters are engaging in." And he said, through his daughter, "No, I will not denounce Marxism, I will not denounce communism, and I will not denounce the violent actions that people are engaging in as long as the apartheid continues, as long as we are not able to participate in political action. I will stay in prison." And they had to concede at the end. They had to release him from prison, and he became the president. This is very important to understand because anti-colonial struggle is not pretty. Anti-colonial struggle is going to have a lot of unnecessary and horrifying acts of violence. Okay, Mandela was not a tanky lemafeo is something you can say now, just like Martin Luther King was a revisionist. Why can you say that? Because we have whitewashed his history. Most people do not know the history of Nelson Mandela because they only know Nelson Mandela as the guy who went up and played nice with the same prosecutor who fucking threw him in jail and wanted to give him the death penalty. You know him as the leader of South Africa. You do not know him as the revolutionary figure of South Africa. That is by design, because if you knew him as a revolutionary figure, by the way, I love being like, Nelson Mandela is not a tanky, because if you use the terminology tanky, then yes, Nelson Mandela would fit that 100,000%, just so you know. Why am I talking about this? Because it's not that far. It's not that far off in history, and it's important to reframe this perspective because a lot of people see the violent reaction to an apartheid state, and if you are not aware of the endless violence of facilitating said apartheid state, you think, wow, this is unprovoked. I cannot believe how unprovoked this is. That is by design. Okay? This is not unprovoked. There is no unprovoked violence in this circumstance. It is absolutely unimaginably ahistorical to consider this a violent action that is completely unprovoked. Okay? The only reason why you can get away with saying that is if you are completely oblivious to the reality. Okay? I'm going to run the 3-minute ad break right now, and we're going to continue. This was interesting. I mean, this is a good take. When Palestinian resistance groups adopted Marxism and supported the USSR, the Western media said they are fanatic agents of communism. Okay? Which was, of course, a terrifying prospect for them and for Israel as well. So they decided there's a better counterbalance there. Islamist fundamentalists. When Arab resistance groups adopted the Islamic ideology and received support from Iran, the same media said they are religious fanatical agents of Iran. The reality is they're always going to be religious and they're always going to be considered fanatical because to push back against an apartheid state requires fanaticism. Okay? A lot of people have had a lot of takes on the matter, and none of which is tempered, none of which is reasonable. It's understandable that it's not reasonable if you are living in fucking Israel, obviously. Okay? Not that it's correct, because there are still plenty of people living in Israel, living outside of Israel that do have the tempered, reasonable perspective that recognizes the reality of the colonial violence that has caused this circumstance. Okay? Oh, this town hall is incredible as well. I remember this. I think, is this the one where they tell him, why do you support Yasser Arafat? Why do you support Fidel Castro? Fidel Castro was incredibly formative in Nelson Mandela's like political development. They say like, why do you fucking support these people? And he goes, why do you think your enemies are supposed to be my enemies?
Said that the government perceives itself in South Africa as being part of the anti-apartheid struggle.
Do you really think Hamas is fighting for Palestinian people? I am not Palestinian. Okay? I don't know if you know this. My name is Hasan. I am Muslim. I'm Turkish, so a lot of people might get that confused, especially right now, because you're like, oh, this guy is fucking, you know, probably a Muslim guy. Who's, you know, who knows? I am not Palestinian. So, for me, the only assessment I can make is that, yes, Hamas is a fundamentalist group, okay? Palestine is an incredibly diverse area. It is well, historically was a very diverse area where Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived there under the Ottoman rule, okay? It is not me saying Hamas represents the interests of the Palestinian people. Hamas represents Palestinian vengeance according to the Palestinian people, because that violent retribution is the only way that they can see, is the only way they see out of this struggle. Palestinians consider Hamas to be the only government formation that is at least in some way, shape, or form protecting them. They are fully aware that every single time Hamas does something, that fucking Israel counters with violent retribution that is tenfold, okay? Do not take their autonomy away by being like, oh, this is a separate moment. This is a separate instance. I make no mistake. The actions that happened yesterday are not simply Hamas. If you think that it's simply Hamas, and you are a leftist or you're a radical person who believes in radical politics, or at least aesthetically believes in radical politics, you are not seeing the entire picture. Were there brutal, unjustifiable acts of violence that civilians had to endure? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen the fucking videos. I know. I saw the girl with the dreads in the back of the pickup truck. That shit is completely unacceptable. Okay? That might not represent the interests of the Palestinians, but that is violent retribution that was an inevitability. Okay? Violence is unstoppable in that situation. If all you know is violence, if all you have withstood is violence, if every single moment of your life is violent, okay, some fucking douchebags are going to behave in that regard, whereas during a military operation, they don't even have a decent standing military. They don't have anything. They have no rules of engagement. They don't have fucking a standing military. They literally built these little tin cans, okay, that they strapped a fucking parachute to so they could fly over the Israeli smart border. You think those motherfuckers have any you think those guys have like a decent understanding of how to make sure that a lot of white Western leftists will be able to continue defending them PR-wise? Of course not. They're angry. They're reacting to the violence that is their constant lives, okay? They have nothing. They have nothing left. I've said this already. To them, they are retaliating for the first time directly inside of the border walls of their prisoners. They make no distinction, which is wrong because there is a distinction. Of course there is. Like, these are people born on the other side of a border wall that who knows what their fucking perspective is. You know what I mean? They could literally be anti-Zionists living inside of Israeli borders. That is, there are plenty of them out there, okay? You don't know. You can look for nuance in this situation, but I need you to understand that wasn't a peace festival. That was just like a regular festival, by the way. Like that is just like massaging the narrative, which is still unacceptable. 250 people dying in a fucking in a festival is ridiculous. It's awful. It was just a music festival. You just heard people say it's a peace festival because every little minutia counts. Okay, here. This is another thing I wrote on Discord. I'll read it. I said, because many people were saying like, oh, you know, Israel is going to retaliate. Israel is going to retaliate. Two things I said were, remember, Palestinians have nothing, no control over their supplies of water or electricity. Their peaceful coexistence project in the West Bank has led to a tremendous amount of bloodshed and displacement, because there's the other side of this. Everyone says, oh, they lost the PR battle. They lost the PR battle. There is no PR battle in this circumstance. I hope you understand that. In their perspective, in their eyes, they are living in hell every single fucking day. So there is no PR battle. They don't give a shit about what our perspective is out here. You need to understand that. You want to know why? Because on the PR front in the West Bank, okay, for years and years and years, Israel has only taken, Israel has only partitioned, Israel has only bullied, Israel has only displaced hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, an act of settler colonial terrorism that even Israel, if you go back to the fucking 90s, would turn a blind eye to. Okay? Because they thought, oh, those are just the religious kooks that think that West Bank belongs to Israel too. And now that is the norm. Now they turned a blind eye. When houses were getting bulldozed in the West Bank, none of those people fucking did anything, okay? The West Bank Palestinians weren't the ones who were violently pushing back against Israel. They were peacefully coexisting, okay? This is important to understand. They were peacefully coexisting under an apartheid regime, okay? They built illegal settlements. First they said, why are we giving money to these fucking religious kooks? That's what they said inside of Israel. They said, these guys are fucking weird. They're gross. They're going over to West Bank. They're freeloaders. Why are we giving them any money? But the state had different opinions. First, they said, we'll turn a blind eye to it. Then they brought in the bulldozers. Then they protected the bulldozers. Then they started building partitions on West Bank territory. They started cementing their fucking water wells. They started building partitions. They set up security checkpoints, and they became the military security apparatus in West Bank. So don't fucking tell me that when you're peacefully trying to coexist with Israel, they let you fucking peacefully coexist. Because what is going on in the West Bank is nothing but violence. Not to the same degree as Gaza, but certainly just as fucking violent. At the end of the day, if you live in West Bank and you're a Palestinian and you fucking leave West Bank, you can't get back in. You are not allowed. Your life is fucking ruined. You've watched your own cities, towns, villages turn into parking lots, Israeli parking lots, where motherfuckers from Brooklyn come in and live there for free because it's government sponsored. It's nice, free real estate. So don't tell me peaceful coexistence can happen. Okay? You can literally look to the West Bank to see what peaceful coexistence looks like. Those guys are leading the charge on PR. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything, and yet they get bullied by settlers on a daily fucking basis. And now Ben Gvir and his fucking, that Kahanas dog is able to control and make the situation in West Bank even more insane. And that aggressive violence in the West Bank is what happened to lead to this incredibly unimaginable military action that took place in southern Israel and is still ongoing. They took over precincts. They killed a bunch of fucking commanders. How do you think that happened? This is one of the most well-guarded per capita, like per ounce of land areas on the fucking planet, because they got so horny on their endless conquest and violence of the West Bank that they did not look in their own fucking backyard. There's a reason why Palestinians look at the PLO and think that they're fucking Israel's own people, okay? They are unpopular. The West Bank leadership is completely unpopular. Do you want to know why? Because they see the leadership as just another cutout of the Israeli apparatus. They see that leadership as letting Palestinians in the West Bank get fucking slaughtered. They watch every day as dudes that don't live in fucking Israel or Palestine, that flew in from like Brooklyn or fucking Long Island or wherever the fuck, fly in and forcibly take their own fucking homes and tell them, sorry, This is mine now. Okay? And then you can't push back. You can't push back because the police force is an occupying military apparatus that comes in and fucking kills you. So tell me, how is peaceful coexistence going in the West Bank? It's not. This is why the people of Palestine have no one to turn to but Islamist fundamentalists like Hamas, which isn't simply a terror cell, but also the governing body that was democratically elected in fucking Gaza. Okay? Not like those guys see the world eye to eye with someone like myself. I am not aligned with Hamas. But time and time again, I have said this exact same thing. Okay? You have to remember, when imperialist actions occur in your country, the most reactionary elements are seen as those who will fight back. They will be seen as the violent liberators. You will galvanize them. And inside of Palestine, this was by design. They neutered and executed all the fucking socialist revolutionaries. Every single one. Until all that remained was the Mossad-backed fundamentalists. And now that's what all of these people want. That all of these people want is liberation, and the only people that will give them that, or at least will fight back so they die on their own terms, is that government apparatus and its formation, its military formation. So remember that. Like I said, there's so much bloodshed and displacement occurring in the supposedly peaceful side of things, where Israel is objectively, like, by the rest of the world, in the wrong 100%. Okay? When you're backed into a corner with all your socialist revolutionaries purged, with no allies in foreign nations, the Palestinian people have no one other than a violent Muslim Brotherhood cutout fundamentalist organization that is now being seen as liberators. Okay? They have nothing. They have nothing. They've done peaceful protests. They get killed. They get arrested. This is before we consider like the violent existence. I mean, here, this is an example I've shown you before. Okay, here you go. Here is the PR. Okay, here is the PR that you see. Here is the daily life of a Palestinian living in the fucking West Bank.
Stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is gonna steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, ya ammi.
There you go. I mean, remember, this is not Gaza. This is not Gaza. This is West Bank. Okay? This is fucking West Bank. This is the peaceful coexistence. This is Israel allowing Palestinians to exist in an area that they should have no business being inside of. Okay? So how does that work? Tell me how that works. And let me tell you, you want to know? You want to know something? There you go. Thousands of Israelis are seen headed to the Ben Gurion airport as they prepare to escape. Because they can do that. When Gaza gets bombed, and Benjamin Netanyahu says, move inside of Gaza because we're going to bomb certain areas, we're going to do military operations, Palestinians have nowhere to go. This is their home. This is where they've been pushed into. They can't just fucking fly out of Gaza. There's no flying out of Palestine, especially because if you're in the fucking West Bank and you are Palestinian and you fly out of the West Bank, you can't come back in. They will, because their goal is to displace you. Okay? But yeah, if you are Israeli and living in the West Bank in territory that you do not own inside of someone else's home that you bulldozed and built your own on top of, you can comfortably leave in an airplane, in an AC airplane, okay, with air conditioning. You can go back to fucking Europe. You can go back to Brooklyn. You can go back to Long Island. You can go back because it's a vacation. No, dude, that's it. You've lost me now. What? What is happening? What? Oh, I shouldn't read chat today. I am Palestinian. Fuck you. Froipe law. Let me talk and fuck you. I am banned in your chat. Fuck you. Thanks for the ban. You have no fucking idea. This guy's just been giving me money nonstop. Actually getting banned, idiot. You have banned me, idiot. Stop banning me. Thanks for banning me. Holy fuck. Thanks for banning me and keeping your word. What happened with this guy? I have no idea who this guy is. Stop giving me money. Critical roleplay. Your moderators have banned me for having a different take than you. I will be asking for a refund for my 6 months of subs that just started last month. Here's $1 though. Defend murder by saying that the other side murdered first. Great mods. There is no defense of murder. And there's certainly not one happening here. Okay? I'm a Palestinian living in Bethlehem, West Bank, and you're completely correct on everything. Two base, don't listen to them. Why did the people in the settler stealing house video speak English? What do you mean? Why do you think? Why do you think this guy has a New York accent? The fuck? That motherfucker's from Brooklyn. We know who he is. Because he's an American. He's like, oh yeah, well, you know, it's expensive. Rent's expensive in New York, so I just want a summer home or whatever. So I'm gonna fucking go to West Bank. You immigrated and reside on stolen native land. This is actually 100% true. You are correct. Okay? The difference is there wasn't someone living here, okay, when I came here. At this point, that's what happens when you do fucking colonial violence like the United States did. He was living on fucking the aftermath of indigenous genocide in America. But I guess that wasn't enough that he wanted to do his own in fucking West Bank against people who can't defend themselves. I love people saying that. Yeah, I displaced native New Jerseyans. Let me explain another. I want to show you another video because I think it perfectly captures like something that Americans or people living in the imperial core, people living in the West don't fully understand. They can't fully grasp. That is like a normal existence, a part of like everyday existence for Palestinians, okay, under occupied West Bank. Hold on. Where is the fucking... Can you guys send me that video of the checkpoint? Like the settler checkpoint that they created? How can you look at an Israeli mom and a 2-year-old kid being captive in Gaza and justify it? Did I say that? Did I say that that's justifiable? I did not. You heard that because that's the only fucking way you can defend violent colonial apparatus every single day, brutalizing many fucking children many times over on the Palestinian side, which you turn a blind eye to. I never justified it. Shut the fuck up. You said that because you can't defend it. You can't defend that unless you fucking say, so condemn it. I did. That violence is completely unjustifiable. Okay? But guess what? It's also inevitable. And if Israeli leftists, even inside of the Knesset, can understand that, you, living in America, should be able to comprehend it too. Okay? But you can't because for you, it's just moving parts. And one side is always supposed to be the victim of asymmetrical violence, and the other side can be the purveyors of said violence and live in a constant state like that, and it's perfectly fine and dandy. Wait, no, this isn't what I was talking about. This is the checkpoints, but that's not what I'm talking about. But yeah, this is like, this is West Bank. This is West Bank. This is the peaceful coexistence.
But not for these Palestinian workers at Israeli settlements.
Look at the workers. Look at their faces. No one is happy. All of them are in debt.
Here they line up single file to be filtered through checkpoints and authorized entry to work in land that they consider as occupied by Israel.
عملوا الجدار أخذوا أراضينا وأخذوا كل حاجة وإحنا الآن يعني في شعب في العالم.
Is there anyone in the world who commutes to work at 3:30 a.m.?
الصبح الساعة 3:30.
For most here, there is little choice but to work for their occupiers.
بصحى الساعة 1:30 بالليل. الساعة 2:10 بطلع من جنين باجي هون على المعبر. ولحد الوقت هاي ساعتين على المعبر، ساعة ونص على الوقت، بس بوقف عشان نوقف دور. يعني لو فتحوا لنا ربع ساعة أقدر بنحل كل المشكلة.
Here in the West Bank, the Real News Network spoke to workers on the ground.
والوضع يعني صعب على الجميع وخاصة كبار السن لأنه في ضغوطات وعمال كثيرة ووضع المعبر معقد. التسهيلات ما في تسهيلات على.
This is what I wanted to show you, okay? Before, like, that checkpoint is just like a part of daily existence, but there's more, because that is the violent military apparatus forcing partitions upon land that you previously thought were yours, right? As the entire world looks on. So that part is a part of daily existence, but it goes further than that. This is B'Tselem. Here is a video that B'Tselem posted on Twitter, which I think is very informative for you to understand that it goes beyond the violent military apparatus as well. Here it is. Israeli settlers who invaded Palestinian farmland and were stopped by his owner bully and attack him in front of soldiers in Bani Naim in the Hebron district on the 10th of August, 2023. I remember watching this when it first came out. Okay? Here. He says, hey, why are you coming to me? These guys are not the military. These guys are militarized settlers. Okay? And Ben Gvir has made this so fucking normal. Okay? I need you to understand. This shit is too extreme for even Israelis living in Israel. What they're doing right now is considered completely unjustifiable, even by motherfucking Israelis who are currently baying for blood. Okay? Just remember that. Like, imagine your entire nation state was designed by imperial partitioned land, okay? So you technically have, like, lived an existence of settler colonialism, and you look at these guys and you go, nah, dog, these guys are out of fucking control. Why the fuck are we giving them money? These guys are the most passionate psychopaths, okay? Look at this guy. He's got a fucking, look at him. He's just kitted out, talking to a Palestinian who he fucking stopped and is operating like he's a part of the military or some shit. He's not. He says, get away. Do you want to shoot me? Shoot me. You see it. You hear it. He says, shoot me. What are you going to do? Kill me? Just fucking kill me. They're just going through his shit. Opening his car. So this is my land. Don't come here anymore. Do you understand? We didn't do anything that's not allowed.
أنا ساكن في الخليل، وين دا كنت ساكن؟ هون أرضنا اشتريناها. لا مالنا يا حبيبي أرض.
He says we bought this land. He goes, nah, you didn't. I don't give a shit. Look at his fucking face.
اشتريناها، مالنا حقنا دفعنا على رئيس بينا يا حبيبي.
He says we worked on this land with our sweat and brow.
Hello. So
this guy has no other, like, can you imagine? This is not a cop, bro. This is not a fucking cop. Your takes are so brain dead. Please ban me so I never have to chat in this shithole again. No, don't worry. We won't ban you until you are either like deeply anti-Semitic, which many people get from time to time, or if you are deeply Islamophobic. Or don't worry, we won't ban you until you're genocidal in either direction. So you can stay. I don't know why you have to like write stuff like that in the chat. You could just also do something that's healthy for you, where you just click away. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you look at the situation and you defend its existence, this is every fucking day, okay? This is every goddamn day. It's not just a violent military apparatus. It's literally just these motherfuckers just like taking matters in their own hands.
بيسووا مشاكل قاعدين. تتدخل مالي تتدخلش فيه. احكي شو بدك. ما تمد ايدك، ما تمد ايدك. انت جاي تمد ايدك، ما إلك. هاي الشرطة جاية، هيك بتشوف كل.
Like, understand that. The reason why I like this video, the reason why it's so maddening, is because this personalizes the everyday existence of living in a fucking partitioned land by a violent colonial apartheid state that defends these kinds of actions. He's fucking booping his face, got the New York Yankees hat on. You know what I mean? It's just, look at that. Look at how fucking disrespectful it is, because to him, that guy is not a human being. He's just a plaything in that moment. Okay? You can just do whatever you want to him. You want to know why? Because when he calls the fucking cops, it's the motherfucking IDF. It is an occupying force that's going to come in and defend them. They are there to defend this guy. Okay? They're not there to issue justice. They're there to defend him, and in most cases, literally arrest the Palestinian every single fucking time. No, these aren't military people. These are regular settler terrorists, okay? He said he's forbidden. He's not a police officer. He's not a soldier. Why are you searching my car? You know why he's searching his car? Because he has a fucking AR-15. That's why he gets to do what he's doing. And there's nothing you can do. He can just shoot you and kill you right there. And many have. That's the other part of it. Settlers fucking kill Palestinians all the goddamn time. You want to know what happens to them? Nothing. Rarely do they ever actually go to prison for that. Rarely. Think about that. Think about that existence, dude. Think about living... And your neighbor just like fucking came here and took your cousin's apartment, okay? And now he could just come over and like fuck you up. Same as Hamas is a fucking ridiculous equivalence, okay? Hamas does not have the firepower, the manpower, the military apparatus. Hamas has nothing, okay? That's why when they fucking flew into Israel, they didn't use F-16s, okay? And this is not even Gaza. You're looking at West Bank. You're looking at settler violence in an area that everybody understands Israel should have no business being inside of, and yet it is. This is what peaceful coexistence looks like. These are the people that don't do anything. They just get fucking bullied, ritualistically humiliated, okay, and killed in a lot of instances and displaced. You are desperate to say, look at Hamas, look at Hamas. Hamas does the same shit. There is no Hamas here, okay? There's no Hamas here. I'm showing you this so you understand. I'm showing you this so you fucking understand. Yeah, Israel conditionally releases Palestinians detained over deadly Israeli settler raid. 19-year-old Palestinian killed last week by a Jewish settler. Incident was condemned by the U.S. as a terrorist attack. Settlers say they acted in self-defense after rocks were thrown. Expansion of settlements has seen rising violence. This is everyday existence, man. That chatter was the same person calling Native American savages brain dead? Yeah. Why is there no pressure on Sisi from Arab leaders to open up the border near Gaza so the majority of Gazan families could escape? Can't imagine most of them would want to stay. At least half would want to leave, especially now. Yeah, I wonder why. Because every single North African country's leadership, on top of every single Gulf nation state, is in the pocket of the United States of America. Their people might actually want some change. Their people might want emancipation for the Palestinian people, but it doesn't fucking matter. Hamas doesn't care about the people of Gaza, and the IDF don't care about the people of Gaza. Yeah, dude, you keep saying that. I know. Yes, I know. It's a way for you to have some consciousness in the West where you can sit there and say, yeah, no, it's just like these guys are bad. Yeah, everybody knows that already. Of course it's bad. It's understandable. But to say that and leave it at that completely removes the nuance of the situation. So what are you going to do when someone in Israel turns around and says, oh, yeah, you think Hamas is separate from the Palestinian cause? Then why is it that there's over 50% approval for Hamas and no approval whatsoever at this point for the leadership in West Bank? What do you have to say to that? What do you do in that situation? Now, are you cooked? What happens when someone who is defending Israel and its violent actions turns around and tells you that actually people see Hamas as their only fucking salvation? What do you do in that situation? Because I don't agree with Hamas either. I think they're Islamist, fundamentalist weirdos for the most part. It's not like we see eye to eye. But there's one cause that they are seen as engaging in, the only people that are engaging in said cause, which is fighting back and dying on their own fucking terms. If that is the case, why are people saying this is to deter relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel? I mean, that's because of the timing of it. But like, which by the way, which is odd because I guess Jared Kushner was doing a pogger's job, considering that, you know, that is the Trump era foreign policy that the Biden administration is continuing with, which is literally what, you know, the Jerusalem Accords and what Jared Kushner did. So I guess Biden loves Jared Kushner. Biden loves Donald Trump when it comes to foreign policy. Or maybe, you know, both parties do not have any fucking interest beyond whatever the bipartisan State Department interest is in a particular area. Now, explain. I need to keep explaining things, okay? Because there's more to talk about here. Because we did not even talk about the actual actions that took place. Seen all the videos. They are terrifying and they are awful, okay? They're awful. Absolutely. On the other side, the military actions are unimaginable. As we speak, there are still Palestinians deep inside of southern Israel positions that have taken over military checkpoints, that have taken over police precincts. Okay? This has not happened before. This is so unimaginable. Israel and the Israeli authorities never thought that it could happen. Now, I've talked to some people about this to understand, like to get a better perspective of how this happened, how this could have possibly happened. And for the most part, including, you know, Chris Cappy, who from Task and Purpose and many, like, you know, a diverse background of people with military experience, people with experience in Palestine, people with experience in Israel. And the overwhelming narrative is that after years and years of occupation, and heavily relying on tech, the Israeli forces got too arrogant and never expected this. They got so arrogant and they just did not expect this at all. Where they got complacent, they got arrogant, they moved their military apparatus to the West Bank to do the shit that I'm showing you right now, to defend that, okay? To defend these kinds of actions, because there's a lot more happening there that is like, that needs additional military support. So the supposed greatest counterinsurgency, the greatest counterinsurgency military apparatus turned into a violent Gestapo force internally. So when you get too comfortable doing that, you forget basic border protection and things of that nature. That is yet another instance of living under a violent colonial rule in an apartheid state. Okay? That is where the fascist the fascist convergence creates problems with respect to internal security. Okay? Do you get it? That's because of how fucking far right the Israeli government has become. That it does not offer basic securities to its own citizens because they're too fucking horny to keep doing more blood and soil conquest in the West Bank. No, I do not think that Netanyahu and Mossad knew this was going to happen and let it happen. Do you want to know why? You want to know why I don't think so? Because currently, first of all, this is a massive fuck up for them. There's already so much internal rift inside of Israel. And yes, military operations oftentimes galvanize Israelis who will say, all right, we have a security problem here and we have to do something about it. We have to go kill some Palestinians. However, this moment is a legitimate, it demonstrates the fragility of Israeli security. Okay? So many commanders died. So many special forces people died. There are hundreds of hostages now inside of Gaza. And the official leadership in Palestine said, we have these hostages specifically because whatever violence you dish out to us, they will experience. They wanted to minimize, as far as I understand, the damage that Israel could cause to Gaza. Okay? That's why they did it. That's why they took these fucking hostages and they said they placed them all around Gaza, where they said, look, you think an Israeli's life is more important than a Palestinian's life? We all know that. So go ahead. Bomb us if you will, but you will be killing your own people. Now, for those of you who don't understand what this means, last time one singular Israeli military person was kidnapped by Hamas, Israel released 1,000 prisoners in that prisoner exchange. 1,000. He was one military person. Because in their eyes, it's worth it. 1,000 Palestinians is worth the life of one Israeli. So now they have hundreds. And not just Israelis, but even, from what I understand, foreign nationals as well from the festival that they raided on. So that is something to consider. There are forces inside of Israel that are now saying things like this. When genocide is permissible, judging by the numbers of casualties on both sides, it's almost a one-month-old war. I mean, this is from 2014. This is back from 2014. This is not the only person. There's another dude in the Knesset who said, we are going to do the Nakba again, and it's going to be much more violent than the former Nakba. Okay? It's going to be much worse than that. There are people internally that are baying for blood. There have been closed-door meetings inside of Israel. People are calling this sort of good military overview, but I can't say for sure. Okay, hold on. We'll look at the military overview in a second. But there have been closed-door meetings where the most far-right elements are literally saying, we'll kill our own hostages. It doesn't matter. Okay? We'll kill our own hostages if we have to. It doesn't fucking matter. Now, if you do that, it's over for Israel. If you kill Israeli citizens that were taken hostage inside of Gaza with Israeli bombs, Israel as a nation state will collapse. 1,000,000%. Right now, there are way too many far-right forces inside of the Israeli government, and plenty of people fucking despise them for understandable reasons. Okay? This is my speculation. If the ultra-nationalist forces are able to literally fucking, wipe out the entirety of Gaza and kill hundreds of Israeli hostages in that situation, Israel internally already is a powder keg. There will be mass protests. There will be mass protests internally inside of Israel. I know that most people think, no, they will probably get more violent and they'll be more angry, and certainly there will be some radicalization, okay? Do you think the protests will do anything? It won't just be regular-ass protests. This... there are so many interesting dynamics that occur in Israeli existence on a daily basis, some of which is very funny, some of which is incredibly violent. One aspect of this also, you're underestimating the right-wing voter shift that this sort of event will breed. This will flip side of Israel's action, breeding terrorism. I mean, it already exists. The violence is constant. The violence is everyday existence for a Palestinian, okay? Remember, they did a prisoner swap for one prisoner, and they released 1,000 Palestinians from prison for one Israeli military person. Okay, now they have hundreds. Why haven't they immediately wiped out the entirety of Gaza? They're bombing Gaza. The bombing campaign has been more ruthless and more brutal. Okay, the bombing campaign has been more ruthless and more brutal than in prior years. However, it's not new. If you're in Gaza, they fucking bomb you all day, every day. Think about that. They haven't leveled Gaza. Without hostages, they would have leveled Gaza 100%. They are gearing up for a ground operation instead of leveling Gaza. Do you want to know why? Because they have hostages. That's the reason why they are gearing up for a ground operation, so they can be more targeted. You're blind if you don't see how different this is. Yeah, it must be emphasized that armed struggle by Palestinian resistance against the occupier is legal under international law. This is from the UN General Assembly, Resolution 3743, adopted in 1982. There is no ambiguity about it. It reaffirms the legitimacy of the struggle of peoples for independence, territorial integrity, national unity, and liberation from colonial and foreign domination and foreign occupation by all available means, including armed struggle. This is why the Human Rights Watch, calling Israel openly an apartheid state, is actually legitimately terrifying for Israel, and that's precisely why they've been doing counter-propaganda against it non-fucking stop, okay? Because once the NGOs start openly stating the situation, okay, start openly fucking addressing what is going on with a shred of honesty, all of a sudden there is more legitimacy to the counter-struggle. Yeah, think about it. The Human Rights Watch, Amnesty, calling Israel an apartheid state. That is genuinely important. It's genuinely important because that all of a sudden reframes every single violent retaliation in a way that has never been reframed in the Western media. The UN still won't do shit? Yeah, of course, UN is feckless, but even if you are an institutionalist, there is literally like a legal legitimacy to these actions. Okay? Do you think taking foreign hostages and killing foreign civilians was a smart move by Hamas and beneficial for them in the long run? No, of course not. I think taking hostages from a purely military perspective is in an effort to not let Israel fucking level Gaza. I don't know. I like my morality in this situation and my immediate perspective is very different than like my completely like if I'm not looking at it from the perspective of morality and like individual harm being conducted to civilians, then it is an act of desperation, but it is one that is thus far relatively successful if your interests are to ensure that you're not leveled immediately after engaging in violent retaliation against an apartheid state. Stop saying settlers and those who support them are not civilians, dude. This is fucking nuts. Like, listen, I know it's easy to fucking say that, but, you know, there is also real humans there. Come on. Also, bro, you're a fucking settler. What do you mean? Like, we live in America. As a country with forced conscription, does Israel really not have that much support from its citizens? I mean, I don't know. There is one other aspect of this that I find to be particularly interesting. Let me explain something to you. And this is something I say all the time when I'm talking about Turkey, with respect to Kurds, with respect to the Greeks, with respect to the fucking, with respect to the Armenians, right? Every single person looks exactly the fucking same. So there is no distinction between who is Israeli and who is Palestinian, with the exception of like someone speaking Arabic, I guess. But Israelis speak Arabic and Palestinians can speak Hebrew. So the reality is everyone looks the fucking same. So if you are now inside of the Israeli borders, okay, where there are Arab Israeli citizens as well, all of a sudden, you are in a very unique predicament that Israel has never had to deal with because of its massive internal surveillance apparatus. Okay? How do you know who the bad guys are? How do you fucking know? This presents a gigantic security flaw for Israel. Okay? There have been circumstances where special units have killed one another, thinking that they were fighting Palestinians. Think about that. How are you going to know who's doing what? Especially if they take off, if they're Hamas, the green headband, or if they're a part of the Popular Front, they take off the red headband, or the Democratic Front, they take off the red headband. How do you fucking know who's who? You don't know. You have no fucking clue. Anyone that fucking tells you, you can tell the difference is lying. Okay? Yeah, they literally, 2 Israeli squads killed each other last night. It happened already in the last 24 hours. Why? Because they've never had to deal with this. And it's not like the violent struggle against apartheid in South Africa, because then at least like they knew, okay, this guy is black. You know what I mean? In this situation, that guy could be Israeli. You have no fucking idea. He could literally be an Israeli Jew and you have no clue. That in and of itself is also a very unique is also a very unique predicament. Internet leftists will twist themselves in knots debating the morality of militant decolonization, forgetting the material reality that colonized people have to go through. If taking a hostage that you don't hurt is a way to keep Gaza from being bombed. Yeah, I mean, there's also areas, listen, there's also videos out there that are just truly fucking horrific, okay? Everybody understands that those videos are horrific and abhorrent, okay? What is necessary in the circumstance is how we got here. Okay? It's to understand how we got here. Like, everybody fucking understands is evil. Okay? Everybody understands is evil. It's a military apparatus with no, like, clear direction. They've never been able to get this level of, yeah, I know, Elint News. They did hurt people. I know. I didn't say that they didn't hurt people. I'm literally explaining they did. They fucking hurt me. They killed people. They killed so many fucking people. But what you must recognize is that everybody understands dead civilians is bad. I of course, okay? But what is important to recognize here is how we got here. The historical reasons as to why this is happening, okay? Because many people look at that situation and go, oh, it's because they're like anti-Semitic. They're anti-Semitic. They just want to kill all the Jews. They want to kill all the Jews. And there's certainly people in Hamas that want that 100%. Okay? Absolutely. Except the reality of the situation is that that is not the only reason, and not even a major reason in this point, because they are living under colonial rule. This is an open... It does not make it right. Sure, but you're fucking ridiculous if you don't understand how that's happening or why that's happening. Might be my worst take yet. Yeah. Well, you must be new here if you think that my you must be new here if you think that like me talking about Palestine is you know, a bad take that's new. No, this is my worst take since the jump, I think. Anyway. The reason why I showed you guys this video specifically, okay, the reason why I showed you this video, let me see if I can pull up what I wrote about it yesterday. 1 second. I said, this is the settlers bullying this guy right here. Watch.
رخ الاوراق مالك في الاوراق هدول يا زلمه هدول محمد ولا رخ الاوراق
تعزفتني يا لوط تعزف
رخ الاوراق ما تلعب في القران ما تلعب في القران ما تلعب في القران ما تلعب في القران انت قاعدين بيسوي فيها ازعر قاعد ما تقعد تمد ايدك عليه مد ايدك عليه.
Look at that. Bro, look at the bravery. Could you do that? I couldn't. Would you be able to stand up to your neighbor who's like fucking is your neighbor now because he just took over your aunt's house and now he has weapons and the defense of an occupying force? This is in the West Bank. This is not Gaza. This is in the West Bank. This is the supposed tolerant, peaceful coexistence that Western leftists are always asking Palestinians to die for, right? And their situation certainly has not improved over the course of the past 20 years. So would you be able to fucking grab a person with a gun that stole your fucking neighbor's house who is now bullying you, knowing full well that when the army comes in, they're going to defend him? I wouldn't be able to do that. You only can do that. Yeah, by the way, look at the people in that video. Can't tell if they're Palestinian or Israeli. That's the point. But anyway, you are only able to do that when you have nothing left. You have nothing left. It's not even bravery at that point. It's just suicide. That person in the beginning, the other guy, literally said, kill me. Kill me. Just kill me. Just fucking kill me then. You know why? Because he has nothing left to live for at that point. He's just like, I can't do anything about this. Just fucking kill me. My existence every fucking day is horror and pain. All I know is just fucking, all I know is ritualistic humiliation. These guys are not cops, chatters. That's important to understand. When you have nothing left, that's what you fucking say. Yeah. And Ben-Gvir has made this situation much worse because he made purchasing firearms easier for settlers. This is entirely state sanctioned. I just want to point that one more time. These guys are not the IDF. The IDF is about to come in now. Okay? The adjudicators that are going to deal justice now are about to come in. Okay? But the state is allowing them to do this. Why am I showing you this? Because I think it's the perfect video to instantly understand the plight of the Palestinian from a Westerner's perspective. Okay? We look at horrifying deaths on a daily basis, even at this fucking broadcast, right? But you look at an apartment block that's being leveled by Israeli munitions, and that's far too alien of a concept for you to understand living in the imperial core. There's no equivalence there. You can never comprehend what that looks like or what that feels like. This, on the other hand, you can understand. Okay? You can understand this. It's a person just like you who is abusing the violent apartheid military apparatus to his own benefit to just behave in this like incredibly dehumanizing fashion to another fucking human being. Okay? It's hard to empathize with the plight of Palestinians because it's just, you know, you see city blocks lit up with munitions and you can never comprehend it. You can never comprehend what it's like living with that fear every day. Those guys are not from there. They just came. They took your aunt's house. She's not allowed back into the West Bank because she had to flee. And now they're acting like they're the police. And when the police come, they're not on your side either. They're the ones who protect the bulldozers, knocking down your home to make a new house for some dude from Long Island. Okay? That video is in the West Bank. That's not in Gaza. That video is a demonstration of what peaceful coexistence looks like with the Israeli state. Just to put it in perspective, Ehud Barak is a former prime minister of Israel, seen as a war criminal outside of Israel for his military service. And he says, hey, guys, this is kind of an apartheid. Yeah, Ehud Barak, friend to Jeffrey Epstein, by the way. So the media has dehumanized Arabs so much, there is no empathy given in any situation. Yeah, 100%. 100%. All matter of media in the United States of America churns out content that straight up dehumanizes and also participates in the humiliation of Palestinian people. We turn a blind eye to their fucking everyday existence. We turn a blind eye to the oppression that they have to withstand on a daily fucking basis. But this is a real human interaction, okay? This is something that you can see or at least empathize with, unlike the city, the apartment complex being reduced to rubble by Israeli munitions, which can never happen in America, right? This is something that you can empathize with, you know?
ما فيش اي مشكله هم اللي اجوا اعتدوا علينا.
Look at them, they're walking alongside the IDF. He says everything is good. They go, get back. Soldiers come in.
ما تأسوا فيها أسعار.
Yeah. The current minister of national security, by the way, extreme right, is convicted of supporting terror group. Yes, right-winger Itamar Ben-Gvir, okay, is literally branded as a terrorist by Israel. I've covered this a lot. I talked about Ben-Gvir quite a bit. Dude, just Google Palestine or search Palestine on my fucking YouTube, and you will see 1,000 videos that I've done on the situation in Palestine, the situation in Israel. He is just a psychopath. He is literally so extreme that the Israeli military was like, you can't be a part of the Israeli military. Like, think about the violence that the Israeli military engages with on a daily fucking basis. This guy was too extreme. And now he's a Kahanist who is a straight up terrorist, okay? Now he is inside of the government. A chatter might have the clip, but I'm like 100% sure not long ago you said that the shit Ben-Gvir was doing or talked about doing was going to lead to exactly what happened over the weekend. I don't know. If you guys can find an older clip of mine where I'm talking about like the situation in Israel and what's going to inevitably happen as a consequence of like, trying to justify and keep this like never-ending oppression, never-ending apartheid structure, you know, if you find it, link it, and we'll talk about it. Yeah. Israeli lawmaker blames pogroms against Palestinians for the terrible attacks. By the way, this is Ofer Kasif. He is he's a progressive member of the Israeli Knesset. He's on the left in the country, and he quite literally says exactly what I said. Even ex-Mossad leader Tamir Pardo said this is apartheid, lol. Yeah. Lahava explicitly an anti-miscegenation coalition has members in the Knesset. Yes, it's gotten more and more radical inside of the Knesset over the course of the past couple of decades, and you have no one but Bibi Netanyahu to thank for that. He is almost single-handedly responsible for this, okay? Obviously, he's not the only person who did the apartheid, but he is the one who made it much, much worse. They had an opportunity at a certain point to, like, dial this shit back, but instead they kept fucking pushing. And when you keep squeezing, when you keep pushing people into a fucking corner, inevitably they are going to fight back when they realize that they have no other opportunity, when they have nothing and they're going to die anyway. So they say, we might as well die on our own terms. Here is the map of events in the Gaza Strip. In this thread, main points and some developments from an OSIN analyst. Hamas attacked on a wide front, quickly overran the Israeli border defenses in multiple areas. They advanced into multiple border towns. They engaged in a barrage of missile fire. And while the missiles were landing inside of Israel, they also literally fucking paraglid over the fence, over the supposed smart fencing system that they have on this entire area. Okay? Fighting in Sderot, where Sderot Night Cinema exists, by the way. For those of you who don't know, they used to have on the hilltops of Sderot, they would put up fucking chairs and watch Gaza get bombed. They call it Sderot Cinema. So just that's another thing to remember. No, the paragliding was fake. No, it wasn't. What the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean that was fake? There's literally actual video, like multiple videos, both from Hamas groups on Telegram, and also both from Hamas groups on Telegram, but also from fucking what do you call it? But from Israelis inside of Israel. 5 years ago,
one of the greatest injustices,
the double standards of brutality in Palestine. I mean, this is more than 5 years ago. This is 2018. I guess it is 5 years ago, but this is a re-upload. There's footage from the fucking festival. Anyway, listen. The same mentality in Gaza was experienced by the young teenage Jewish groups inside of Warsaw Ghetto, which launched the Warsaw Uprising. They knew there was no hope left and they were going to be killed. The point of the uprising wasn't to live, but it was to re-grasp a bit of freedom and dignity in order to choose how they would die instead of letting that fate be chosen for them. Yeah. They were paramotors, so they had big fans propelling them. Exactly. So they came in. They immediately took over military checkpoints. They took over the major checkpoint that they went into the military bases. They started taking prisoners. They started killing all of the fucking IDF. There's like footage of them trying to put their gear on and getting slaughtered. Like they literally got caught with their pants down, pretty much. It was a massacre. It was brutal. And that part is also military on militant action. So that's a little bit different than fighting against civilians and like ripping them to shreds. Okay? Chatters are talking about dumbass blue checks who are retweeting fake paraglide videos when there are real ones. Oh, okay. So, in addition to the map above, Hamas conducted sea operations and reportedly landed their smaller units in the direction of the city of Ashkelon. Also, claims of Hamas forces crossing the border in the southern Gaza area surfaced, but I haven't been able to confirm those yet. Israeli forces at the border were surprised and in some occasions had almost no time to react. The likely reason for this is the immense failure of the Israeli intelligence or failure of politicians and officials to react to intel reports. Deception by Hamas played a role too. Remember, Israel's surveillance apparatus is so good, supposedly, that they sell it to the rest of the world. Okay? It's so good that the FBI and CIA have told Israel time and time again, hey, this is too good. You can't use this anymore. It's kind of fucked up. So they have like insane spyware that they're selling everywhere, and they fucking forgot to use it on their own backyard, I guess, or somehow it was completely fucking avoided. Harder than the top of the hour ad break, which comes at the top of every hour. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Sorry, before I forget, I'm doing in the middle of the hour, but oh, fuck. Okay. Israeli forces on the border were surprised and on some occasions had almost no time to react. A likely reason for this is the immense failure of Israeli intelligence or a failure of politicians and officials. One thing that I heard was, oh, thank you, Derp State Inc. for the 5, get the subs. One thing that I heard was that, fuck. Like I mentioned this earlier. One thing that I heard, at least according to internal reports, is that they had moved a lot of their units away from the Gaza border, hyper reliant on technology, and were caught off guard for that reason because they were too busy moving some of their units into the West Bank. Israel's Air Force and Navy were capable of starting countermeasures already in the first hours of the attack. Israel's ground forces seem to have been comparatively slower in their response. However, according to the latest reports, they've started a series of counterattacks. Hamas does not have the capabilities for prolonged offensives. A long-term military success is unlikely, especially outside the Gaza Strip. Most likely, Hamas will not be able to defend and hold conquered territories against the Israeli defense forces for so long. Except, this was 21 hours ago, and as far as I understand, they still have certain military checkpoints and certain police precincts right now as we speak, which is fucking insane. I need you to understand something. Inside of Gaza, every single item that goes into Gaza is controlled by Israel. This does not mean that there is obviously still explosive ordnance and things of that nature that sneak in, but you have to understand that like Israel has complete control of what the fuck is going on in Gaza. Okay, there's only 2 ways to get into Gaza. One on the Israeli side and one on the Egyptian side. Neither side is controlled by the Palestinians. Israel even controls Gaza's electricity, which they've shut down, which is, by the way, another violation of human rights because there's 2 million people living on this strip of land, 2 million Palestinians. Israel also controls Gaza's water supply. 97% of the water in Gaza is toxic. Okay? 97% of the water is toxic. Many of the issues that people experience in Gaza is due to the fact that they do not have access to clean water. Israel controls 2/3 of the electricity. Palestinians have one singular power plant, and that power plant, as far as I can understand it, can power the entire strip for 2 million people. Remember, this is like medical equipment. You know what I mean? Like, this is hospitals. Like, they all need power. They can only go on for 4 hours without the Israeli power. Okay. Yes. Also, UN says Gaza could become uninhabitable by 2020. Already 3 years ago. Yes, they said Gaza could have become uninhabitable by 2020, which it is. It is not habitable. Huh. Where are they getting their arms and funds from? Hezbollah on the Lebanon side and Iran. Iran-backed. Iran is giving them weapons and training, and most likely Hezbollah, which is also, Iran-backed. The average age in Gaza is 18. Okay? Not Hezbollah, Hezbollah. Hezbollah in Lebanon. But you want to know what they also do? They also fucking literally repurpose munitions that have been deployed into Gaza. They don't have any fucking access to a lot of these weapons. So they have to make shit up. They have to literally repurpose the fucking the munitions that are being dumped on them. Have you heard about Ukraine sending some weapons over? Or was that bullshit? No, I saw that there was what do you call it? There was suspicion that like some of the Ukrainian weapons have made their way. Everyone is fucking using this for propaganda. Some people are saying that Ukrainian weapons have made their way through the black market into the hands of Palestinians. Okay, some people are saying that it's actually the Taliban and the M4A1s that we left behind in Afghanistan that made its way into Gaza. You mean terror groups? What's happening here? The drones they learned how to make by the Tunisian engineer Zohrari, who was killed in his hometown in Tunisia years ago. They even named them after him. Don't want to be that chatter, but it's pronounced Hezbollah. Okay. In Turkish, you say Hizbullah. Okay? Shut the fuck up. You are that chatter now. New York Times published that Iran organized the attack. Very interesting that you say that. Now, many people speculate that it is actually Iranian-backed. However, at least as far as I saw, last night, the official State Department line on this was that there was no connection, which made this even crazier. There was no connection between Iran and this line of attack. Normally, it is it's usually the point is that yes, it is not even last night. This morning, Blinken said that on CNN. I don't know why they're doing that. I don't know why they're saying that it wasn't Iran. I don't know why the State Department is saying that. I think maybe they're saying that because they gave $6 billion of Iranian money that was frozen in Korea. Recently, they signed off on that $6 billion going back into Iran, which hasn't even reached Iranian hands yet, by the way. So there's some propaganda on that front as well. But probably maybe to cover their own bases, they're saying that. Anyway, here is now that we covered the military situation, okay? Now that we covered the military situation, there's also another. Here is a Palestinian viewpoint from the West Bank. This is Mustafa Barghouti, who is not connected to Hamas, about the terrorist group's offensive in the southern Israel. Let's take a look. This is one of the first times that CNN has even thought about mentioning the Palestinian side on this.
According to reporting by Al Jazeera, the leader of Hamas has said the group is on the verge of a great victory after its incursion into Israeli territory.
One thing that's really interesting about this is that a lot of people don't understand, right? A lot of people don't understand this. But Hamas is not just a terror cell. It also is the governing body in Gaza. Hamas also is comprised of many different individuals at this point, but they run the fucking hospitals. They run the ministries. Okay, so it is elected government. So when people say oh, dude, these guys are totally separate, I think a lot of people, of course, the last election was in 2006. Okay, sure, but it's not there are surveys conducted on the matter, and the popularity for Hamas has only grown in recent years. Hamas, in and of itself, was literally its creation was backed by the Israeli government. Okay? The problem here is that most people don't recognize that there's also a governing body in this situation. Okay? Most people don't recognize that. And most people in the West don't understand because they are extremists, okay? Of course they are. They are extremists. They're fundamentalists. They're Islamists, certainly. Okay? But most people don't fucking comprehend that they are also seen as the only thing that Palestinians have in terms of at least having autonomy over how they die. Okay? That's it. Which is precisely the reason why their popularity has grown. So immediately saying like Hamas terror is like, yeah, sure. I mean, they're bad. I agree. But you have to understand where, or you have to understand the opinion on the ground. And if you ask plenty of Palestinians, maybe not those living in the Western world, but Palestinians that you can still have communications with, that live in Palestine, that live in the West Bank, that live in Gaza, their opinion is that while they might not agree with Hamas, they have nothing else to rely on because the West Bank leadership is seen as a part of the Israeli state apparatus. Okay?
Political leader Ismail Haniyeh has blamed the violence squarely on Israel's occupation of Palestinian land. For another Palestinian viewpoint, I wanted to bring in Dr. Mustafa Barghouti. He is a former information minister for the Palestinian government, which is in control of parts of the West Bank but does not control Gaza. Welcome, Minister. I again want to just make sure that viewers understand that the Palestinian Authority has been an opponent of Hamas, so you are not in any way affiliated with Hamas. You represent the Palestinian Authority, which has control over parts of the West Bank. All that said, what is your reaction to...
Dude, what was the point of them attacking the music festival? I'm pro-Palestine, but that's going to make them lose a lot of support internationally. Brother, I can't begin to explain this to you, okay? They don't give a fuck, okay? They don't care. They have nothing. They don't care. I hope you understand. They care about getting hostages so that they can have leverage. That's all they care about. They care about fighting back. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain this to you because, like, what support do they get from the West anyway? What international support do they get? Those who will support Palestinian liberation will support Palestinian liberation and will be called anti-Semites, will be called fucking terrorist supporters, as you are seeing in the chat already. And those who do not, or those who at least like aesthetically claim that they want Palestinians to like live and they're human beings who deserve a life of dignity, but then turn heel immediately when they say, well, this time is too far. I think Gaza is going to get wiped out and it's actually Hamas's fault. Well, then those guys weren't fully invested in this anyway. And another thing that I need you to understand is this, okay? Another thing that you need to understand is this. BDS, boycott, divestments, and sanctions on the state of Israel is a peaceful movement, a peaceful act of resistance. This movement started in apartheid South Africa, against apartheid South Africa. Do you understand? And it was actually very instrumental in at least pushing the American government to, and other Western governments, to stop supporting apartheid South African businesses. BDS against Israel is illegal in 35 states. Okay? 35 states. It is fucking illegal. Nice finger gesture. This is how I fingered your mother's pussy last night. What finger gesture? God, I gotta stop. I gotta stop reading chat. Motherfuckers are gonna do like symbolism now. They're gonna be like, oh, dude, he's I'm doing numerology to figure out that Hasan is secretly an agent. Sanctions do not work against enemies. Sanctions do not work against governments that have already designed their entire existence against sanctions that are inevitable. Sanctions, however, do work for your allies. Something I've said time and time again. Okay? Sanctions would work on Israel. Liberals have been fighting for optics for so long, they forgot about literally anything else. Exactly. Israelis were having a rave near where the apartheid regime has created the world's largest open-air prison, torturing and killing its population with 1 million children. They were partying, getting high, dancing the techno without a care in the world near to a concentration camp. By the way, this is not considered depraved and inhuman. It's considered normal Western civilized behavior to go to the fence of a concentration camp and have a party. Who cares? Palestinians like Iraqis, Afghans, Yemenis, Syrians, Libyans are subhuman anyway. Is a different way to frame what is going on there. I didn't show it to you because I'm scared that there's going to be TOS shit. Okay? That doesn't justify those people dying. I'm not saying that at all. I hope you understand that. But you should comprehend what is going on. Liberal left response has been fucking disgusting. Ukraine supporters completely giving up on the image of actually giving a fuck about liberation. Come on, dog. Come on. I know. What was the expectation? Comparing Ukraine to Palestine for many people was simply just a way to win arguments online. There are more people right now that are more interested in like clipping something I say out of context or saying that I'm like a supporter of terrorism and want people to be fucking butchered mercilessly or whatever the fuck than actually trying to have an honest discussion about what's going on. You can't take these people seriously. They are just more so interested in causing chaos in their own little bubbles. That's it. Okay? I don't know why many people legitimately thought that there was like a... I don't know why many people thought that there was a legitimate interest in emancipation for all peoples. And that's the reason why they were supporting Ukraine. No, they don't give a shit. And Ukraine itself doesn't give a shit either. Immediately, Ukrainian authorities were just fucking in unison, collectively being like, dude, it's just like, you know, what happened to Israel today is just like what Russia is doing to us. Like they compared what a violent state apparatus and its brutal invasion into their fucking lands was actually similar to a military group finally fucking pushing back in some ways after years and years of colonial suppression by a much more powerful state with a much more powerful military. That's crazy. Someone said China is fascist. What does China have to do with anything here? China is also a supporter of Israel, dog. Okay, don't worry. Don't worry. China is also aligned on the same boundaries as like Ukraine and everyone else. I did some surface level research into the Nakba and displacement of Palestinians. Wasn't shortly after Jews displaced by Arab countries. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that don't both sides have blood on their hands? Wait, what? Brother, that's insane. What the fuck did the Palestinian people do? It's not their fault. Yeah, maybe you should do a little bit more research into the Nakba if you want to understand. Why are you reading all the good questions? Can you explain why Israel originally backed Hamas if they are extremists? Did they not start out that way? I don't know. Maybe they got a fucking maybe they got a lot of info and a lot of help and a lot of support from the United States of America and did United States of America shit, which is very commonplace. You always back the Islamist fundamentalists because the Islamist fundamentalists are much better to deal with than actual revolutionary socialist formations. Because revolutionary socialist formations, if one, you're splitting the groups. So you're creating internal turmoil, okay? But two, you also no longer have a face to the movement that can get global support. The face of the movement is infinitely easier if it's an Islamist fundamentalist group. They can only get help from Iran or anywhere else, and they're automatically in the terrorist. They're automatically seen as like the terrorists. It's going to be very difficult for you to get international support it's going to be very difficult for you to get international support beyond America's adversaries. Genuine curiosity, what is the pro-Israel line that defends classic disappearing Palestine map timeline picture? You want to know? It's maddening. They say Palestinians never actually controlled that territory ever. It was originally controlled by the Ottomans, then controlled by, which by the way, they glance over because like the Ottoman control also handed off autonomy to the Palestinians living there, both, Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, because that is a important historic area for religious and has religious purpose. But the Israeli the Israeli line is Palestinians have never, the Arab Muslims have never controlled that area. It was either controlled by the British or it was controlled by Egypt. Parts of it were partitioned off by Egypt and England, and they gave us that land. The British gave us that land. Palestinians never actually controlled it, which is why it was totally fine to expel all of the Palestinians living in that land. And not only that, but the only time that Palestinians have ever controlled that land was after 2004. Palestinians have never actually controlled that land before 2004. That's what their argument is. It's fucking bullshit.